Hey, I'm Lewis Porter Jr., and what you're watching is a video series I'm doing. You know I like videos, so it's only natural to do a video series like this, but this one's a little different. This one is pertaining to my amazing comics enterprise that I'm doing. So instead of writing stuff down in a blog, I thought would be really kind of tedious. I said, let's do a video. Let's talk about stuff, and let's give you some references to understand where I'm coming from. Because you know with me, I've always got something interesting going on. So this video, we're going to talk about the good guys of the world, one of the main superhero teams that we are currently calling Strikeforce One. Uh, Basically, the whole concept comes from the Avengers and the Justice League of America. If you're going to do a traditional superhero comic book setting world, you need to have a very traditional comic book setting hero team. That's pretty much a standard of any comic book. And with the invention of Strikeforce, I wanted to take some I wouldn't say liberties, but I want to take some different views on how to do superheroes in general and specific. And the setting for our world, we still don't have a name for our world yet, too. I mean, it's Earth, but we don't have a name what to call it, so just bear with me. In our setting, there's a couple things that have happened. I don't want to talk about all of them right now, but one of the most important things has been superheroes are not like with other superhero worlds. Something that's always driven me crazy about superhero worlds is, oh, I get these cool powers, oh, I make a costume, and then I go off and do stuff. And, me being a traditionalist and thinking about, what makes superheroes different in the 21st century would be, okay, let's talk about the laws behind this. Okay, you got guys with all these kind of powers doing all kinds of things like this. Well, there's going to be some laws made because that's just going to happen. It isn't going to be you're going to be able to do the Wild West. And this was, of course, explained and talked about with Civil War with Marvel, which I thought was a brilliant idea, and even having Cap and Iron Man play opposite roles for each other, especially opposite of the non-traditional roles they should play. So in my setting, these laws came into play much, much earlier. So this is something that this world's been dealing with for 20, 30 years. So it's not even an issue anymore. It's like, yes. And really the structure works like this, that if you have some kind of superhuman ability, you have really three options they give you. Option number one is the Royal Military University. And this is, like I said, this is all tentative. We may change some stuff, but you can at least get the idea and concepts. So the Military University is West Point slash the Naval Academy. You will be transitioned in playing a military role. You have very specific military focus. You'll be trained on your abilities. This is a government-run, sanctioned situation, so you can use and train your abilities, and that's the main focus. And there are a lot of people in the comic world that go through this. This is it's like I said, it's between these three places. And this is where roughly a third of the people go through. It's a typical military academy. People come out, it's that kind of training. So there's very similar people who will be in that kind of thing. There's also the it's actually two universities, Brimstone Academy and Archerwood Institute. Think of Brimstone Academy more like Xavier School of Gifted, and Archerwood Institute more like Massachusetts Academy. Very similar ways to go about it, but very different mindsets. I'd say Brimstone is a little more open, a little more friendly. People who come to Brimstone usually don't always go into they don't always go into the superhero business, as it were. They don't always wind up like that, but they get trained accordingly. Also, another government institution. Archerwood is a little more private. It's there's some connections going on there. That's part of the story. I don't want to ruin it. Also, some ideas, but there's something else going on at Archerwood Institute. It's important to be the yin to the yang of Brimstone. So that's kind of that situation. And the third place that you can go is Twilight Towers. Think very much. I'd say the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four for the modern age. My idea was always like, I like the idea of the Fantastic Four. I think it's a smart idea. Who's calling us at this time? My mother-in-law can get it. It's probably nothing important. So there are people who run it like a business. And, the government also involved. These people are usually the tech-heavy people, the science-heavy people, and they train those kind of things. Now, these people, could easily go work for Strikeforce or eventually venture out on their own. But there are some restrictions of things they can do, things they can't do, due to their unique abilities. But the training they get is half like power focus and half like actual science. So this is our big science mind brain box. So a lot of people, if you're involved in science, this is where you're gonna start or go through. And certain people have crossed over different ones. Like some people start at the military university, they may wind up over at Brimstone, or they might start at Twilight Towers and then move over to the military academy. It's a lot of different options in play like that. So, and that's something we built from initially. We wanted that to happen. So you could have different. So people will meet other people from other organizations. Sometimes because they went to school together. Sometimes that's one of the relations. Or sometimes their brother or sister went to the school and they know from that. So it's a very integrated, interconnected kind of world. So those things are very so it's happened and it's very easy. So look at the main guys. Strikeforce One. So the whole Strikeforce idea is basically these are government trained superheroes. They are 100% funded by the United States government. Well, I can't even say the United States government. It's the United States government and several other major countries, and of course some corporate entities like that. But Strikeforce is very much this is the premier superhero group. We currently have, I always forget, this is the hardest part. There currently are, where's the little thing? We'll do it quick. 11 active members. Oh, I messed up. But in reality, there's really like 12 members. And the way I decided also with the code naming, I didn't want to do what you always see for code names and stuff like that, which always drives me crazy. It's like, oh, we'll do code names and we'll give, like, everybody will have their own super code name. And I'm like, no, if it's a military, they're going to give you like a military mindset of it. They're not going to do a lot of heavy duty thinking of what are we going to name these people. So I kept it very much, they're named by, the Greek lettering. And they basically, you have Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, Theta, Iota, Sigma, Psi, and Omega. So, and everyone has a very specific role they play in the team. The Alpha position, which actually is the leader, usually in rank also. Everybody's military rank too. And we stuck with the Army military rank because that was the easiest to do and it made the most sense. It just saved me a lot of time. I don't, Navy guys might get confused. Oh, Captain, screw it. Let's just stick with the straight Army. So that's the setup. The Alpha is the captain of the organization. Currently, that position isn't filled. The previous one, who is a woman, she is of Greek descent. Think of her. The best analogy I would say is for her is if you're thinking Wonder Woman, you're kind of in the right ballpark. Super strong, super durable, has some very standard, would expect superpowers, and she's just retired from being on Strikeforce. She was the leader for 10, 15 years-ish is what we're saying. Yeah, 10, 15 years. And her predecessor, also codenamed Alpha, is a man. He's now a retired colonel. She's now a retired major. They have an now open spot, so Strikeforce is looking to fill that spot. And the team is built up like this. And then everything's not 100% solidly done, but you can get some ideas that are very kind of interesting. So currently leading the team is an individual, a white male whose name is Beta. He's an energy manipulator, and he has a twin brother named Gamma. Okay, this is where it's going to be really kind of different. Gamma is an African-American male. He's a first lieutenant, and he's a force manipulator. So yeah, one controls energy, one controls force. And yes, I did. If you did hear me correctly, one of them is white and one of them is African-American, and these are actually twin brothers. One of the more interesting things of genetics. I have a little side hobby of I love genetics. I'm very fascinated by it. So the possibility of interracial couples having one child that appears black and one child is like extremely high, but it does happen. And I thought as a writer, as someone interested, I wanted to play onto that whole mindset of you don't really see that. You don't really see that in writing. You'll see it, but how does one kid who looks very, very white, and when I'm saying looks very white, they're both twins. The Beta, blonde hair, blue eyes, very good looking. Gamma, African American, darker skin, good looking guy. They're both, they're both very similar, but they're brothers. But they're both good looking, but they're also very different guys and how they grew up. Beta was always basically going to be groomed to be the leader of Strikeforce. That was kind of his focus. That was always the thing. Gamma has taken very much the XO position. Everybody, very likable guy. He's a lot of long-term connections with a lot of people he's worked with in the team. They worked and went to school together, so have these connections. Beta's a little kind of more standoffish because he's trying to be, the good leader, and it's, he's not as comfortable inside his own skin as his brother is. So there's kind of that kind of going on. So there's that kind of interesting setup. Next up, we have Delta. Delta is a Chief Warrant Officer 3. her superpower is she manipulates metal, glass, plastic, and rubber. And the reason I picked all 4 of those elements, usually you get one person just one, whatever. But I've always noticed, which always never made sense to me, and the movies did this, and it's kind of cool because like Magneto controlled metal, but he couldn't really make like battle armor, because to do battle armor you're going to need need batteries, and you're going to need to manipulate metal. And I was like, why can't a person manipulate all these things to make all the cool robot stuff? Because usually it's like, I control this, and I control metal, and that's it. But I said, let's combine them all together. They're all like products that are interesting and need to work together. So that's part of her ability, so she can make cool stuff. So as a warrant officer, she specializes in doing a lot of the technical support for the team. Of course, she's, having those powers is pretty awesome. She also has built another character on the team, Omega, who is there. And this she starts as a robot, then develops into his own synthetic being, but that's later on the road. That's Delta. Next up was Epsilon. Epsilon is the first sergeant. He's a Nanite infused combat specialist. If you're thinking Wolverine, Taskmaster, even Sabretooth, like any combat-based guy, that's kind of him. And you need those kind of guys. And he's, white male, Italian. He has I don't want to ruin the secret for it yet, because I'm still developing it, and I want to, I'm not going to talk about it yet. Or should I talk about it? No, screw it. I'm going to talk about it. So the character we made for this for Epsilon, he is a gay male. He is out, but he's not out. Some of the members of the team know, like Gamma. Gamma and him are best friends. They went to school together. They've been into a lot of missions together. They have a long-term friendship. They also room together in college. So Gamma knows it's not even a thing to him. And his boyfriend, I don't talk about him yet because we'll talk about him later. But his boyfriend is also in the business, as it were. And they are, I can't even say it's his boyfriend now. They've broken up. They've had a very harsh breakup. So when they meet, and I've written this all in my head. When they meet, it's very, very hostile and angry. And people are like, why do they hate each other so much? And you don't find out till later they hate each other because they were in love with each other and some stuff happened. And they moved on to that focus. So that was something I definitely wanted to do. I wanted to flip the trope on its head because, you think about Wolverine, super macho male, super dumb. And I was like, you know what? Gay, straight, if the character's cool, that's all people care about or should care about. So that's why we made that character. Oh, phone. Next up was Zeta. And this is something that I've always wanted to do for a character. I wanted to make another combat specialist. So that you always need 2 good fighters and scrappers. And usually they don't usually do a lot of black women as like, tough combat experts. We're talking like Black Widow style and that kind of thing. But I wanted to give her another cool superpower that I thought would work really, really well. And it's really 2 superpowers. She has photographic reflexes like the Taskmaster, which I think is one of my favorite superpowers for like non-superpowered people. I think people who can copy other people's fighting abilities is pretty awesome. So I was like, yeah, we're going to throw that in. But then I put in something else with her, and this is kind of a weird thing. She also has precognition. So it's kind of, she can see the future. But the way hers work, it works when her adrenaline is going. So kind of think of it like, kind of like Spider-Man's spider sense, but not really. It's very much like when her adrenaline's running, she can predict a fight before it happens. So what you're going to do before it happens. And, she already knows what's going to happen in the fight. Plus, she's got photographic reflexes. So you put them together, you've got like a woman who's just really, she can whoop some behind. Oh, before I forget, I totally forgot this. So because of the nature of our setting, I've never really liked the idea of having people without superpowers doing stuff. Like characters of Hawkeye and Black Widow existing in a world where Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor exist. It's always been kind of a weird thing for me. But it's like, I'm sorry, those people are fragile, relatively speaking. So all the people in our setting who have powers, or any people who are superheroes, have they have powers. They are tougher than normal. They have we built them that way. There are no there are no people who are doing superhero stuff that don't have superhero powers. And the way we built it up also, there's power levels. The levels go from 0 to 10. And, for example, like Beta and Gamma are somewhere around 8. They're very, very powerful. They're very, very, they're powerful. Actually, Epsilon would be more like 4 or 5. So, and a regular human being is 0. So if you figure, if you're a PL1, you are basically Olympic level, but a little bit more. So, you're the best of the best. That's at the lowest level. That's PL1, power level 1. Remember, human beings at 0, you get to like be 1. You're like, you are super powered. You can lift like 600 pounds. There are some people who can lift 600 pounds now or press 600 pounds, but you consider those people to be like superhuman. It's like you are at that level. And there are some people who can do that, but most people can't. So I've always, like Batman would not do well in the world. I never made sense to me. Batman travels in a world where, he's dealing with guys like Superman and, all stuff. Yeah, he's got a lot of gadgets, but if someone grabs, all right, there's a scene that always drives me crazy. And this is a personal scene, and this is what kind of made me do this. There's a scene where Batman jumps the back of Mongol when he's beating up with Superman, and Batman, and this is during Final Crisis, and Batman's trying to like wrestle him down, and in my head I'm like, Batman is as strong as probably a human being could be. I mean, he's not like Captain America strong, so we're thinking like, let's say he can bench 400 pounds. That's reasonable. That's not totally insane. But it's silly because it's like, dude, he's punching with Superman. Superman can move mountains. There's no need for you to get on his back. If this guy flinches the wrong way, he's going to rip your arms off. So that kind of stuff always drove me crazy. So that's why I was like, no, we're not going to do non-powered people jumping on the back of powered. Because if you do, you're going to be dead. You'll just be dead. I don't care how smooth you are, how much stuff. No, you're going to be dead because there's a massive mismatch. It just is. And I've always said that it made sense, and I get it. And to not have it that way just didn't make sense to me. I don't get it. So so all of our people have powers. Even though you may have one main power, usually everybody's got, they're incredibly durable. They're much stronger than normal human beings. Like, even at the low level, like I said, 600 pounds, you can easily press 600 pounds. So even at like some of these guys, like Epsilon, he's PL5, he's incredibly strong. He's amazingly strong. And, the strength level for our guys, I decided it was silly to do, like Marvel used to do the 100 tons was a big thing. Well, a main battle tank weighs like 50 tons. You wouldn't move a big trawler. That's like, 10,000 tons. I think it was like 50,000 tons. So it's like, we want to really push the strength, everything to where it could really be. So our guys, moving 1,000 tons is not a big deal. You can toss around a car. You pick up a car, you're a low-level guy, you can pick up a car. Not a big deal. Like SpiderMan can lift a Volkswagen Bug, and it isn't that super. So lifting up a tractor trailer, not a super big deal. So that's another thing. Continue on. Theta, we said Native American Mohawk. This guy is a private. He's also electrical energy blaster, because of course I love electricity. I think it's a cool power. So we're going to do a lot of cool things with his ability. Just a lot of cool things, just the pure science aspect. So we're going to do a little more stuff with him. Iota is our Asian Indian, specifically shape changer. And for shape changer, I'm thinking more animal-like, because I like animals. You can do some cool stuff, and we can go a lot of places with that. So Sigma has a very, very, very interesting history. Sigma is Puerto Rican and German, female. She is the daughter of the second previous Alpha. Remember the one I told you, the Colonel, which goes by his also code name is Victory. And she also has a brother named Maxwell Cross. Maxwell Cross works on a lot of covert ops. He does not have superpowers. Maxwell is very much the belief of, if like it says, if superpowers and all this stuff is in my blood, I want to get a transfusion. And he doesn't want to be involved with this kind of stuff. He's very much on the, he's human. Like I said, he's a human among all these people that sees all this stuff going on. It's like, you could easily do something dangerous and kill people. Now he probably is a PL 0.75 or 0.8. He has some abilities, but we don't really talk about them very much, or he doesn't really use them. So, but in a family of people, and his sister Sigma is like a tank, super impervious, super strong, just like our father. So it's that kind of thing. And then we have that. Sai is our lovely Irish lass who is a sergeant. She's also a telepath, telekinetic, so you can go with that. Yes, she might have red hair. No, she will not be Jean Grey. We have a very different view of her. I think she has a real cool potential to do some fun stuff that people haven't seen before. So I think it'll be kind of interesting. And finally is Omega. Omega's our initially a robot turned into a synthetic humanoid. Was created actually by Delta to help her, and he's considered to be a specialist. He has a rank. He's sentient. So, he works with the team just like any other member of the team would be. So it's very, very interesting. Oh, and before I forgot to mention some of this, and this is kind of I'm sorry I'm jumping around so much. Beta are, like I said, are currently men in charge. Our current guy in charge has a love interest by the name of Smith, and Smith runs this other organization called Hex Strike Black. They're the covert version of Strikeforce, so they have a very specific goal. They do very specific stuff. Smith, and that is her name, Smith. First name, last name, just Smith. They have a very interesting relationship. When you find more about her, I'll talk more about her in some more videos. Gamma also has a love interest. Her name is Evangelyne Eve Kirby. Eve is the sister of Delta. Remember the person who can manipulate metal, that whole thing. So that is her sister. They do not get along. They are like typical sisters. They have sister problems. I don't want to tell you about Eve yet. Eve's going to come up later in another group that we're talking about. But that's his love interest. And Delta's love interest is an individual by the name of Trip, which is short for Triple. He's part of a group. I don't want to talk about him either because they're coming up later too. They're also another important group. And how they're inspired is one of my favorite stories. I really want to wait with that. So like I said, we have a lot of connections to people just by family relationships and just regular relationships. So they connect to the world in general. So that's all I'm going to say right now. Actually, I can talk about Alpha. I already talked about Alpha, yes. I already talked about her. And Victory. Victory was one of the earlier prototypes to make Strikeforce. He's the guy who kind of like built it off the ground. He started it. They called him Victory initially. He's a much older guy. He's in his 60s, 70s. He's still incredibly powerful. Tough, but just retired. While say 60s, 70s. While Alpha, the female Alpha, is her late 30s, early 40s. One of the things I visually, I always go with the Wonder Woman because that's a very good visual. But I definitely wanted to cut her hair. I also wanted to add a gray streak into her hair because I think it's important to realize, yes, she's older than a lot of the people on her team, and they've worked together for a relatively long time, relatively speaking. And they look at her as a very motherly figure. Like Beta and Gamma worked with her for a very long time. They have great relationship. They've all in the military together. They've been in the military together. They've been through missions, so they have a very close bond. She also thinks of them like family. They're all families. It's very, very family. So, and it's one of those things that when she's there, people will usually defer to her because of her previous thing. If Victory was there, they would defer to him being a colonel. So it's, Colonel, was he Colonel? Yeah, Colonel. So that's how, that's how it goes. It's just one of those things. It's like, oh, so-and-so's here. What do you think? Just very natural. Not a big thing, but like they're both retired. And we're going to be telling some interesting stories about, Alpha and, you're a retired superhero. And how do you deal with that? Plus the issues of, having masks and not having masks. And I think that's an important thing. But certain people wear masks. The Fantastic Four do not use masks. But Spider-Man does. How does that affect their lives? We're going to talk about how that also does in the books too. So there's a lot of that. I'll talk about one more character. Since this is, I guess I said good guys. It really should say the standard superhero team. So these are the standard superheroes. So Strikeforce One is the standard superhero team. But really, like I tell people, don't think traditional superheroes. Because the phrase we keep saying that we said for the marketing is we're not superheroes, we're soldiers. There is a difference. And it is. They're soldiers. They're soldiers. They're not superheroes. They're soldiers, and they're going to act accordingly like soldiers. So that's something to think about, even will make us kind of different. Also, talk about Alpha. We broke it down from our stuff. If you don't know already, maybe you didn't read our previous thing. We've broken up our stuff by genre. Superhero, science fiction, mystical, and urban/crime military. So right now we're just talking about the superhero one. So we talk about the superhero team, Strikeforce. The standard superhero female, Alpha. The standard superhero male, Victory. And the standard superhero, actually I said superhero teen. This happens to be a male teen. His name is Sting. Sting is, I don't want to give too much away about Sting. Sting is a partner of another character who's going to be another major character in the books called Jet Black. Sting is kind of the backup partner to Jet. I don't want to talk more about Jet because there's some stuff I got to explain and it gets kind of complicated. But you can kind of think of it like that. So Sting is a cool character, very much inspired of my love of insects for superhero. I have a weird love of superheroes that have insect names. You know, Wasp, Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket still being one of my favorite names of all time. I love that name. And so we kind of did that. So think Spider-Man ish. You'd be in the same kind of ballpark, so you know where we're going. But that's where we are with that. So that's it for now. I'm gonna put this video up. I'm gonna keep working on this, of course, as you can guess. This is something like it's a long project, but it's a fun project, and I really just want to do some really great stuff with this. So if you're interested, come back and look. I'll keep having this run up on my personal blog at our website. I'll put it up on Facebook. I'll put it up on YouTube, and you can enjoy it at your own leisure, as they would say. All right. Thank you so much for your interest, and I'll talk to y'all later.